Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We've got some trade stuff to get into today. We've got retirement talks for a certain player that we'll discuss. The NBA Cup semifinals. Boy, I enjoyed the hell out of that Rockets-Warriors game. Who says defense isn't fun? That game was a blast and even controversial at the end. So lots to get into on today's show. Make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on those notifications as well. I'm Trevor Lane, joined by Keith Smith. Keith, defense wins championships. Does it win NBA Cups?
It might, yeah. I mean, we've seen the teams that have advanced have all played a little bit of D at moments in their games. My favorite thing is how hard the teams have played.
Yeah.
These 4 quarterfinal games have been so good. Like, they were really getting after it. I'm excited. It's some different teams too, like, meaning teams like that aren't necessarily, like the Thunder we expect to be a contender, but like the Rockets, the Bucks, the Hawks, not necessarily on the contender list. Bucks maybe working their way back to it, but yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Any single elimination, anything, like I get pretty jazzed up for.
All right, well, let's get into that in just a few moments. We'll get to the NBA Cup games that we've seen so far. We'll get to the brackets and kind of how all that looks. But first, the buzz around the NBA right now, it's all Jimmy Butler. The Jimmy Butler situation continues to get more and more intriguing as we get farther along in this process. I still think ultimately Jimmy winds up somewhere other than the Miami Heat. But if you saw last night, we had the situation where Shams Charania threw out the Phoenix Suns as a landing spot, and Jimmy Butler's agent was not super thrilled with that and fired back on X. Now we've got reports today that Butler would still like to re-sign with the Miami Heat. He's going to hit free agency this summer. But he's also open to going to other teams. To me, this feels like Jimmy is just trying to keep as many doors open as he possibly can to see where he's going to get that next big contract from. But there's been a lot of twists and turns with this already, Keith. And the great thing is we have no idea where this is ultimately going to wind up.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's also a report out there that the Brooklyn Nets are a desired destination for him, but the Nets have made it kind of clear they're not going to trade for him. They'll just
Don't do it.
They're going to get him. They'll sign him as a free agent. So that could be a leverage play. Yeah, we always talk about trace a rumor back, right? Who benefits from a trade rumor, trade report getting out there? Well, when we get out there, it is all right. Well, it's often a leverage type thing. So
sure.
I'm with you. I kind of don't think he's back with the Heat by the time, or at least February 7th,
right.
Rather, when we wake up the day after the trade deadline, I think he's probably on a different team. Who that's going to be, I don't really know. I wrote a long piece for Spot Track today, went very in depth on why a Jimmy Butler trade is hard and why it's hard with some of the teams that have specifically been mentioned, whether that be the Suns or the Warriors or the Rockets or the Mavericks, as some of his desired destinations, because the Heat have their own hard cap and apron issues that could get triggered. The Warriors are dealing with a hard cap. The Mavericks are dealing with a hard cap. The Suns are a second apron team. The Rockets are super easy. Like, they could make with relative ease. But yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to watch this play out over the next month and a half, 2 months here until the trade deadline. Because I think this one, if it does happen, probably going to take a little while to come together.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you think about Bernie Lee, Jimmy's agent, firing back at Shams Charania on X? Is this just spin trying to control the narrative? Is there real heat here, or what's, I guess, heat being the right word given where Jimmy plays? But what did you think about that interaction? Not typically what you see, an agent firing back at a newsbreaker, particularly now that Woj is retired, like the newsbreaker in the industry for the NBA, an agent firing back at him in a very, very public way.
Well, all I'll say is sources tell me if the Lakers continue transaction in action, Trevor Lane's starting up like girls softball nation, and that's what he's going to cover the rest of the time. I don't know if anybody wants to reply to that or respond or anything, but
I'll have my agent respond to that on social
later,
media,
right? And with some probably not so kind news or words rather. It's interesting, at least, right, that he went back at him very publicly. Now, Shams said this morning, he was making the rounds on ESPN TV, like, hey, stand by my reporting. My guess is something happened somewhere along the line, and having been around this for a long time, where something was mentioned somewhere to Shams of, yeah, Jimmy would also like to play in Phoenix, which
Yeah.
is probably true. And there was probably some, oh, where'd that come from? Well, his agent had mentioned, maybe the Suns. And then he reported it, and Bernie Lee, Jimmy Butler's agent, is like, I didn't have a conversation with this guy. I never told him this. Like, this is where it is. Because if we're clear, Shams never said Bernie Lee told me, right? Like he reported, Bernie Lee has made it known, or what I'm paraphrasing, but that he'd like to play for the Suns too. And now, the fact that he went back, like that's, again, all right, are we just playing leverage games? Is he really mad? Because it's like, hey, that wasn't supposed to get out. Like we're trying to, make something happen that's quiet. It's people instantly ran with it, right? Because it's what we do. Mm-hmm. And like a couple people were like, I don't know, man. I think you're wrong because this trade machine showing it's absolutely fine to put Yusuf Nurkic and Grayson Allen and 4 other guys. It's not. It doesn't work. Suns cannot aggregate players. I don't like.
Use Spot Track.
Yeah,
use
exactly.
Spot Track.
Use
everybody.
the Spot Track trade machine, right? It's all over my social media, both over on Twitter and on Blue Sky. The links to it. It just Google Spot Track trade machine. It'll take you right to it. I can promise you it's the most accurate trade machine you're going to find publicly available. And we're constantly making updates to it to try to make it a better product. Trevor gave some feedback yesterday, and we kind of instantly acted on it. So.
That blew. I mean, this is, maybe, hashtag not a sponsor, maybe should be a sponsor of the show. Right. But I was shocked, just to peel back the curtain there. But I messaged Keith and said, hey, just some thoughts for the Spot Track guys on the trade machine, because I've been playing around with it. I told everybody I got lost in the deep dark forest of the trade machine the other night and wound up doing trades till like 3 a.m. to the point where I couldn't record my show till the next morning because I was so exhausted. I was lost in the thick of trade world. But this is, I sent over just a couple of thoughts, and like 2 hours later, you're like, check it now. And then we're working on doing this, and this too. These other things you mentioned. I'm like, oh my God, like you're actually like the stuff, those are just some ideas, and they just took it and ran with it and started implementing it immediately. Like that was, I was not expecting that at all, beyond belief that they were implementing those changes that quickly. And not only just implementing them and saying, yes, that's a good idea, let's do this, but also the technical know-how to actually make those fixes that quickly. Unbelievable. Absolutely.
Yeah, our guys are wizards, right? And it's mostly one of our guys, Scott. He is unbelievable with all that stuff. Mostly what I do is, hey, this isn't working right? Because I can then take it and I can do the math on the side myself. And I'll be like, something's a little off here. Let's get into it. Excuse me. And then we'll dig into it. And then he's like, okay, I see where it is in the code. Then he rewrites the code. I play with it. Then we'll release it publicly. So, yeah, it's a lot of things are just functionality stuff, right? One of your pieces of feedback was, hey, the shareable image should be better, right? Like make it easier to use. So we built some of that in. Where's some other stuff coming with that side of it, where the depth of it is there. The functionality is there. It works the way it's supposed to. Every once in a while, something will trip it up. Like I had somebody send me, hey, I did a 4-team trade and it kind of did this wonky thing. And he was right. It didn't work the way it should have. And we fixed it. And, and it did what it had to do. But anyway, just use that trade machine. That was a long way around of coming back to. If Jimmy Butler's going to the Suns, it has to be one of Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, or Devin Booker who goes back to the Heat. Like that's the only way it works. The Suns cannot get there for enough salary outgoing than that. And the Heat have to send a minimum salary player, which is Josh Richardson, Alec Burks, or Thomas Bryant, back to the Suns or to a third team, which would be very easy to do as well, because they have to be able to send out more money than they're bringing back for Jimmy Butler. So there are ways this can all happen. There's ways it can happen as a 2-team trade, because minimum players, yes, the Suns can't take more money back, but they can actually break that up into 2 trades. The league allows you to make a trade in the way that is most mutually beneficial for both teams. So you can break it up on your side slightly differently. It's complicated. I'll just say, go read the article I posted on Spot Track today. I broke it down in great detail with screenshots from the trade machine. you'll see what I'm talking about, why it's hard for any of these teams to trade for Jimmy Butler, except for Houston.
Except for Houston. But they continue to tell everybody
They don't want to.
They're not going to. They're not going to move any of their, and we'll see what happens when push comes to shove. All right, let's get here. Chris Paul talked retirement. Sounds like he wants to play another season, maybe 2 or so, and then call it a career. Yeah, that's the point he's at right now, where that's what you should be looking at and trying to figure out how long. Obviously, he's still effective out there on the floor, doing some good things right now for the San Antonio Spurs. And you know that his great career, is going to come to an end sooner rather than later. But right now, he's still giving the Spurs what they need, and still looks like he can definitely contribute at the NBA level. I wouldn't say he's on his last legs at this point, Keith. Like, he's still getting the job done out there. It's not like he's barely hanging on.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, he's at like 10 points, 8 assists. He's like a steal and a half per game. Shooting's okay. Defense is the steals are more. That's just, he knows, like, dude, you're not going to trick Chris Paul. So, like, he takes advantage of teams a couple times per game with something, with a deflection or a steal. It's the one-on-one defense. That's where it's, he's a small guard. There's, just he can't do that anymore. That's the biggest noticeable slip. He doesn't really break down guys and get by them. Everything's just with know-how and being a smart player. And, again, you're not going to show him anything he hasn't already seen. So still productive. And if he wants to play another year or two, I think, whether it's the Spurs or somewhere else, I thought it was really interesting. This was an interview the Spurs posted themselves that he did with Tony Parker. They kind of put the two of them together and they just talked. And when the conversation about, how much longer are you going to play? And he said, a year or two. One of the things he talked about was, I have to watch all my kids' games on the iPad because family very famously stays in Los Angeles. They live there. And he's like, I'm away from them. And it's not as far away as you can be, but San Antonio's not a, hop, skip, and jump away either, like it was when he was with the Warriors and like it was when he was with the Suns, where his base was in LA. So it's difficult for him. So I fully get, where he's coming from with this. I also thought it was very interesting. He said in that same interview, it was really tough on him last year because with the Warriors, he wasn't playing as much. Yeah. And again, this is a guy, he's never not played, right? He's never not been the guy. He walked in as a starting point guard as a 19-year-old rookie or whatever it was, and 20-year-old, and that's it. Every year until now, it's been there 20 years later. So I get why that would be really hard on him. So we're close to the end, but I think the Spurs are happy to, let me rephrase. I know the Spurs are happy to have him and love having him on the team, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Do you see any world where the Spurs trade his expiring contract this year?
Yeah, maybe.
We talked about it over the summer that maybe that could happen.
Yeah, I think if they fall out, right, if like over the next 2 months, right now they're in play-in range. And if that all falls apart on them and it's like, hey, we're not going to the play-in tournament and Team X really needs you as a starting point guard because they had an injury or whatever it is and they can acquire you, we're going to, do you want to go? Like, what can we do? Yeah, for sure, I think. Because very crucially, we pointed this out over the summer. His contract's small enough to fit inside the non-taxpayer MLE, which a whole bunch of teams are sitting on. The whole non-tax MLE, so they could just acquire him via that. So, and throw a pick back to the Spurs or younger player back to the Spurs and call it good and move on. So, I could see a world. I think they're going to probably hang in contention long enough that they'll be like, it's actually better having him here leading this team, playing meaningful games all the way through the rest of the year. And that'll springboard us into next season and beyond.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. Let's go here. The Cavs are looking for wing defense. Who isn't? Right now. Yeah. Everybody would like to add more wing defense, but the Cavs looking for wing defense. The question is, how do they acquire it? How do you get wing defense if you're the Cavs? Because you got to be careful. You're off to a great start to the season. They've been fantastic, and you don't want to tinker too much. But I do think that adding some wing defense could be a good idea for them. So how do they do it?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking. So let's recognize Max Strus. Sounds like he'll be back this week. Yep. Tomorrow, I believe it is. Friday, he's going to play, make his season debut. So that'll help some just with depth purposes, not a great defender, but another good player to have in the group. Then at that point, you're looking at like, well, we got Dean Wade, we've got Karis LeVert, we've got Isaac Okoro, we've got George Niang, we've got the rookie Jalen Tyson, we've got Ty Jerome, Sam Merrill. Now we've got all these guys that are kind of overlap-ish in some of these positions, and that's where you probably look at it and say, all right, can we get by without Karis LeVert? Can that $16.6 million go get us somebody that we can slide in that can really be a wing stopper for us? All right, let's look at making one of those moves. The challenge is go looking around the league, like who, right? Like who are you going to get that's going to be that guy that you're like, all right, that's worth, like you said, messing with the good vibes we have to that's going to definitely be a massive upgrade. That's where it gets to be a little bit tricky because a lot of the teams that have those guys, they're already pretty good and they're not looking to trade them themselves.
So the name that's popped up, of course, it's popped up everywhere. Every team looking for wing defense is Dorian Finney-Smith.
Sure.
But that's 15 million. Making the math work can be, you've got to figure out the right pieces to move there. But I think this
Karis LeVert back to Brooklyn.
Right. Is that what you do?
Yeah. I mean, here's my other thing though. Dorian Finney-Smith to me is much more of a pure four
than a three these days.
Some threes and can defend some fives versus like a Herb Jones, who let's just call this one out where we didn't put it on the show list because it's kind of, why is that news? The Pelicans are like, we're not trading Herb Jones. Just stop.
There were some people, there were some, if the Pelicans really bottom out, could Herb Jones become available? That conversation started to become a thing. And then the Pelicans, of course, said no, because they should not trade him. There's no question. And if they do decide to trade him, 29 teams would be interested because everybody needs a Herb Jones.
Yeah, I mean, in like, no, we're not going to trade him doesn't mean like there's no world. Like, yeah, I'm sure if you got really stupid and we're like, hey, here's 5 first-round picks, then
he's not untouchable.
Conversation, right?
Right.
But yeah, but like, I don't like that's the challenge, right? I don't know who you're getting that is like, because I just don't see Finney-Smith as that guy anymore. I think he's much more of a bigger defender. Maybe some of the bigger, like a Jason Tatum wing, right? That you could get Finney-Smith some mileage on a guy like that. But if you're talking the smaller, quicker, speedy wings, he's not going to help you in that way. Now, for other reasons, I think he'd be a good acquisition for the Cavs. Like, I think he'd be, would make a lot of sense, for them, especially if you like, we're not really feeling George Niang or something like that. Like, yeah, sure. Then you could go with Finney-Smith. But yeah, but again, this is all kind of illustrative of this is what's hard here, right? Like these are not easy, deals to make because it really does get, difficult when you're looking for something that every team places a premium on. You're gonna have to pay a real premium to get it.
Exactly. And so that's going to be the challenge for the Cavs. But again, if there's an opportunity there, they're looking at things and they're looking to solidify their standing as certainly one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference.
And that part is pretty great, right? Like they're clearly, hey, we're gonna make a real run at this, right? We're not shying away from the Celtics. Like we're gonna make a real run at them, and that's exactly what they should be doing. They've already beaten them once. They are very good. Like, yeah, go for it, right? I always believe when you think you're close, go for it. I'm never gonna have an issue with that. If you believe you're actually close and it's not being stupid about it, then yeah, make a real run. Try to get something to close that gap and make your life easier down the line in a series.
Yeah, the Cavs, the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference right now, the best point differential in the East at plus 9.9. They've played some fantastic basketball, and they should be a team that's a buyer right now. That should be saying, you know what, we've got a real shot at this. We've got something here. Let's go after it. So again, I would not expect major like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The Lakers are cautionary tale with that. Good Lord. But this is, I think, a situation where you add a piece on the margin, right? You just add, hey, we could use a guy that can give us 10 really good defensive minutes in a playoff game, something like that. Maybe you find something bigger than that. That's certainly possible, but that should be kind of the avenue that the Cavs are going on. Could we find somebody that we could put in that could give us some important minutes without disrupting all of this that's going so well at this moment?
Yep. Yeah. And that's, again, it's just hard, right?
Yeah.
Like those guys. You know who I would like for them is a
Huh.
much smaller target, Matisse Thybulle.
That's a good call.
11 million.
If he can
That's
get healthy.
yeah, that's the thing. You'd have to be healthy. He's not healthy right now, and clearly they do all their medical checks and all that. But
Sure.
if it's like, yeah, he can play, like then yeah, go for it, right? Because that's pretty easily acquirable number at 11 million bucks. Like
Hmm.
that's not hard to make work for the Cavs. That's somebody who I think would make sense rather than let's get crazy and start talking Herb Jones and other stuff that's not realistic. There's
Yeah.
a small move from a bad team. And honestly, what are the Blazers asking for? Like a couple seconds, maybe a like top 20 protected first at the very best. Like, yeah, why not? Like, man, make it happen.
You never know. Never know. Okay, let's go here. LeBron taking a little bit of time off. The Lakers had 4 days off in a row, which is a rarity in the NBA schedule. It's because of the NBA Cup tournament and all of that. But so they had 4 days off in a row. They practiced once. Don't know how I feel about that. They practiced once in 4 days off.
Yeah.
But the thinking was, hey, these guys need some time to rest, recover, all that. LeBron didn't go to that practice, though. And now it looks like he is unlikely to play in tomorrow's game against Minnesota. They're trying to get an extended rest here for LeBron James. So interesting strategy here by the Lakers, too. I mean, they had him miss the last game against the Portland Trailblazers, now having him miss a game here. It's almost like a physical reset for LeBron that they're going for. And it did seem like he started to wear down. I mean, obviously he was in that terrible shooting slump, but it did feel like he was starting to wear down a bit. So maybe the thinking here is we can get him significant time off here, particularly if you were to miss the next two, if you were to miss Memphis and Minnesota, there's another 3-day gap after the Memphis game. That could be, I mean, we're talking 2 weeks off here in December. That could be pretty big as far as kind of recharging LeBron James.
Yeah, I thought it's interesting to me. I have no issue with, hey, LeBron's not going to practice. Like, okay, sure. I mean, it's LeBron. Like, he just really
so Christian Coloco was asked about that, and I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said he knows everything anyway. Like
yeah.
it doesn't.
Yeah.
He's like, it doesn't matter. Like all the stuff that we work on, we'll just tell him what we worked on, and he'll go, "Oh, cool, you guys are doing this, this, and this. Okay, let's go."
Yeah,
So,
and if there's like some new set, the coaching staff will draw it on a napkin, hand it to him 5 minutes before the game, and be like, "Okay, I got it."
yeah,
Like he's a, but whatever. I do wonder, like there was that kind of little nebulous foot thing, right? And that a
yeah,
lot of times, if it's not something that's actually broken or sprained, that's generally a rest thing, right? The only way that's going to work is get off your feet for a few days. And that sounds like that's probably what it was something like that. The part where it gets a little weird is the phrasing, like he's going to be away from the team for a few days. Like that part is a little like that.
it is a
Almost
little
reminds
strange.
me back to it started with the Cavs, but then carried over to the Lakers early on. Was like, LeBron's going to be out for a couple. It's like, we're just taking vacation now. Like, what's happening?
Is he Dennis Rodman in Vegas? What's happening here?
Right? Yeah. Well, what do we like? We're just taking vacation, but I mean, it's not a problem until it is. I get it. It'll be frustrating to play Minnesota, but I'm thinking if they're thinking like, hey, this is one of our further road trips that's in conference at least. Like, why are we going to send them all the way to Minnesota for a night, then fly all the way back, then have all these other days off? Yeah, and I would. My guess is he'll probably play in the Grizzlies game. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
Just because play, then knowing you've got a few more days after that, and then we're probably right back into it. And that probably factors in too, where it is, hey, after that, we're back into the normal grind for a while of playing every other day. Sometimes we're going to have 3 and 4 days. We're going to be really pushing, and we're going to need them. Like it's very clear they need them on the floor. So yeah, why not give them a little bit of time off here? And but yeah, it's just it's a little weird situation, but I don't know. I don't want to make too much of it until we know a little bit more. I'll say this: if it drags on past Friday, and it's like then what's happened? Like now, what's going on? Because now I'm not buying. It's just time off. There's something more happening here that we need to know more about.
JJ called it an excused absence. They like all of that. It's not like he's just MIA or something like that. Obviously, they're not going to give a bunch of details. He could just be on vacation. He could be, JJ even mentioned like if guys want to go to Santa Barbara for a couple of days and that's what they need to rest and recover. Like, okay, but so we'll see where this all goes. I know a lot of people immediately, because there were all those, could the Warriors trade for LeBron? Could that happen? And then suddenly LeBron's missing
Yeah,
practice.
is he?
Everybody went,
Yep.
they start connecting the dots. You know
Yep.
what I mean? The people are like, oh, a trade is happening. That's what this week. But that's the part of the season where Keith, anytime anybody is out, like if it's an injury that
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
pops up out of nowhere, people
Yep.
go, is a trade happening? Is that what's going on here? You
Yep.
know, everybody's looking for trying
And
to
then
read between the
anybody
lines.
gets held out after the trade deadline on a
Oh,
bad
yeah.
team. It's, they're tanking. It's like,
Yep.
actually, the guy broke his leg yesterday, so that's why he's out. But sure,
His arm is on the floor.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's just but a scratch.
It's but a scratch. Oh no! How much of our audience do you think gets that
50%,
reference?
maybe. Yeah, 50%. Maybe.
How about this? We will not say what that's from.
Yep.
If
Yep.
you know it, put it in the comment section, just
Yep.
so we can see
Yep.
how many people actually get that reference.
Yep. Perfect.
All right, let's go here. The NBA Cup semifinals. We talked about it a little bit off the top here, but the NBA Cup semifinals are set. Keith, this it's not the biggest market team, certainly, but I mean that Warriors Rockets game last night was so much fun, and it was super low scoring, all defense, but those teams were getting after it. I had a blast. I guess if you bet the over, you probably didn't enjoy that game that much, but I certainly enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun game. And so I'm excited for these.
It was a blast too.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. I mean, Trae Young in New York, and there's all that kind of history there and everything. So I'm really excited for these matchups. I know, Keith, I think you had the Bucks winning the whole thing. I had
the Thunder winning the whole thing.
Oh, you had the Thunder, but you had
Thunder
the Bucks representing the East.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep. Thunder over Bucks. Yep.
Okay, and I had Rockets winning the whole thing. So we're both still alive with our predictions here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just talking a little bit about the games last night. Completely agree with you on Rockets Warriors. I mean, it got very ugly, but it was super competitive, and like guys were going after it. I kind of agree with Steve Kerr a little bit that last foul, like they kind of allowed open warfare for a little while, and then you called that. But I also it was a foul, so like I don't like.
Typically guys hit the floor and suddenly everything goes right in NBA games.
Yeah, rugby scrum, let's go. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so I mean I get it, right? Like I can see both sides of it. So and in general, yes, I'd rather just let's decide it with the guys on the floor. But kind of here's the thing too: make a few more shots, and it doesn't even matter what happens on that play. You didn't execute a bunch. Would they have 4 turnovers in the last couple minutes?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't execute well down the stretch.
They didn't, but there were also plays where I think there was one where they just threw it out of bounds. But there were a couple of times where I just went, damn, that was a great defensive possession.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. All credit to the Rockets. Yeah. I mean, I love the Amin Thompson, Shatari Eason's nickname being the Terror Twins. Like that just, it just makes me laugh, and it's so perfect. But yeah, so that one was what it was. Hawks, Knicks, like looked like the Knicks were going to run them out of the gym a couple times. And the Hawks, every time the Knicks started to pull away, they made a couple plays. And in the third quarter, they just took over, and it looked a little bit like the Knicks, to me, were a little tired, a little bit of the older team, and the Hawks were just getting what they wanted. And credit to Jalen Johnson and especially DeAndre Hunter. The Knicks went small. Hunter was abusing Miles McBride and Cameron Payne. Just he'd get it, put it on the floor, take him right down on the block, and score over him every time. And that was tough. Jalen Johnson, I think that was kind of, for me, felt like his hey, here I am, like general NBA fans, like a little bit of his breakout. And then I loved Trae Young, like the way he interacts with the Knicks fans, doing the little shooting some craps on the center logo. But what I really loved, did you see Jalen Brunson's quote about it?
Yeah, he said if we don't want him doing that, we need to beat him.
Yep.
Something to that effect.
That's so perfect by Jalen Brunson. Don't cry about it. Like, own it. All right. Hey, beat us in our gym. Let him celebrate however he wants. It was like that whole when Kyrie stomped on the logo thing.
Yeah.
Who cares? Like, beat him if you don't want him to do it. Stop him. Shut him up. I go back to one of the early episodes of these shows were talking about, do the Grizzlies yap too much when they were talking to everybody? You don't like it, beat them. Like, then you'll shut them up. Right. And unfortunately, Dylan Brooks proved Yeah, when he loses, then what's he do? He runs away and he doesn't want to talk, right? So it's like that proved it. But yeah, I love Trey Young. Great, good. Be
Mhm.
disrespectful. That's sports are better when there's rivalries. Like you don't have to go over the top, but have fun with it. Do the things you want to do. And then I love Jalen Brunson's response of, "Yeah, we don't like it. Then we need to beat them next time." And that's great. These matchups, I love them. I think they're going to be fun. I think the Bucks are going to struggle with the Hawks. If the Hawks can make some shots,
Mhm.
I think Milwaukee's really
They're
going to
playing great.
struggle to defend them. I think they're going to have a hard time defending the Hawks. And I think the Hawks have more guys that could throw at Damian Lillard to make life tough on the Bucks than the opposite way. I think there's a good chance the Hawks end up knocking them out.
Yeah, they certainly could. Let me see. The Hawks, they are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They are 7-1 in their last 8,
Yeah,
including 2
really
wins
well.
over Cleveland. They've got a win over Milwaukee. I mean, they've got some good wins here. Their one loss, they got really crushed against Denver, but otherwise they're playing some really good basketball right now. They've been fantastic.
And that Denver one was the typical long win streak came to an end and the
Mhm.
wheels fell off. And it's just like, we've won a bunch of games in a row. We're not going to kill ourselves trying to get this back. And Jokic was, absurd in that game. And that was also a Denver team that was coming off a loss to the Wizards, who only
Mhm.
wins this year. The Wizards, I tweeted this morning. They are, they've beat the Hawks twice and they've beat the Nuggets
So
once.
weird.
And they're 0-19 in all their other games. So, the Nuggets were coming in pretty angry in that one. On the West side, yeah, Thunder Rockets has potential to be just as ugly as Rockets Warriors
Sure.
were because these two teams, they both get
And just as
after it
fun.
defensively, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be a blast. Like, I can't wait.
It's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to see it. I'm not expecting a high scoring game. I'm not expecting beautiful basketball, but I'm expecting a really fun game where defenses are going to be flying all over the court, and it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun day. Fun. Get the afternoon game. At least this time it's on a Saturday, not on a Tuesday
Yeah,
afternoon or whatever it was the first year. But I know that could all like everything got screwy with that because of conventions and all this other stuff. So yeah, it should be a fun Saturday, and then I'll be looking forward to the championship game on Monday. This has reconfirmed to me there's tweaks to be made with this, and I think the league will continue to tweak it.
hmm,
I want more single elimination knockout in
yes,
this and less group stage.
hmm,
Like, and I've seen people be like, I want more group stage games because if everybody plays everybody twice, there's a better chance the better teams go through. That's not what this is about. That's what the
that's the
playoffs are
playoffs.
about.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want this to have as much chaos and madness
hmm,
in it as possible. If it was Celtics Thunder in the first round, awesome, because that was the random draw. Great. Then that gives everybody else that much better of a chance to win later. Like I want complete bananas stuff in these tournaments. I think that's how you can get even more people interested and engaged. If it looks a lot more like it looked the last two nights, which had some really competitive, very tightly contested, hard playing games.
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the beauty of the playing tournament is we've gotten, or the, I'm sorry, the NBA Cup here, is that we're getting
Playing
these
tournament too, though.
playing
It's
tournament
like,
too. Yeah, but we're
yeah,
getting some very high intensity
yep,
games.
yep.
And that's fantastic to see. All right,
And
Keith,
shout
we'll
out
get,
to John Hollander who said who had
yeah,
the note Cody Zeller made $100,000 sitting on his couch because the Hawks made it to the semifinals. So good
that's
for Cody
awesome.
Zeller. Like,
He was rooting harder than anybody else.
probably. Yeah, right. So good for him.
All right. We'll finish with this. Dirk
Yeah.
is going to join the Amazon broadcast. Obviously, we know Amazon becoming a thing for the NBA next season, and Dirk is going to be part of it. Cool to see him getting a broadcasting opportunity and in a big kind of prime role here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm curious to see, who else does
Yeah.
do they bring in to do stuff. We don't really know. Mark Stein had this. It wasn't
Mhm.
very clear. Like, is he going to be on game broadcasts? Is he going to be in the studio show? What is this going to look like? My guess is probably studio show. That tends to be a little bit lower of a lift than doing the games. It sounds like
Yeah.
Ian Eagles going to be the lead guy, play-by-play guy for Amazon on these games. So that's good. He's one of the very best broadcasters we have. So that'll be really good to see. So, I'm very curious to see how they continue to round out. And as far as Dirk goes, if people may, because he's been gone for a little while now, right? But he's very funny. Like he did a lot of stuff with the Mavs, did a lot of stuff in the media when he did things, always was cracking jokes. He was remember that, I don't know, maybe it's still on, probably not, because I think the only thing MTV ever seems to have on is that ridiculousness show now. But he was on some of the early episodes of Punked, like where like they punked Dirk, and then Dirk like was like, I need to get people back. So then like he was like part of punking people, and he was very funny on those too. So I'm really excited. I think that this has a chance to be pretty good.
God, I was just, it's a very old song, but I was just listening to this the other day. The song by the band Bowling for Soup, which is a great band, called 1985. And the song's 15, 20 years old, probably. And it's probably 15 years old. And a line of the song is music was still on MTV. And that's how long music has not been on MTV, to where you go all the way back to Dirk Nowitzki being on Punked. Oh my, have times have changed. But the topic at hand, Dirk being on the broadcast, that's fantastic. Who else is Amazon going to bring in? We don't know. But Keith, I will start the campaign right now. I will start this for us. Front office Amazon broadcast.
Let's go.
Let's make this happen. Let's join forces. Are the mega powers, the front office show, and Amazon, two organizations that are eye to eye in stature, unquestionably, together in one. It'd be perfect. It'd be perfect.
Yeah, I'm 100% there. Whatever we can do, get us involved. To further that, just so people listening, all these Amazon executives that were gonna start throwing us bags of cash, we close the loop on these things. Bowling, 1985, Bowling for Soup, came out 2004. So 20
so it is 20 years. Oh my God.
So and the big thing that I just where I pulled this from is we're further from now from when that song came out about 1985 than we were when that song came out about 1985. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we'll get together some afternoon and we'll dig each other's graves, because we might as well just climb in them and call it a day, because we're getting close.
And here I'm thinking like, okay, maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 15. No, it's 20 years ago that
2004.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Oh
yeah, man. Goodness. And it did. Yeah. To go back to the younger audience. Yeah. MTV used to show music once upon a time. The M in MTV stands for music. I don't know where it went.
I mean, hey, video killed the radio star. Come on.
That's it, man. Yeah.
Another reference that like half of our audience will get and half will not. All right, everybody. I think that's gonna. Before we get into any more obscure 80s references, make sure that you guys do subscribe to the channel. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below about all of our topics that we got into today. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow is Front Office Friday. We will be live. Come join us for that. Yeah,
we're gonna do Fake Trade Friday. So open to send us your fake trades. If you want to, however you want to get them to us, and we'll evaluate some fake trades on Friday. We're not necessarily going to spend the entire show doing it. And if we've got news, we'll get into that. We're going to take our questions as we usually do. But if you want to share your fake trades, we're going to do a little bit of Fake Trade Friday on Front Office Friday too. And then we might turn into like Fake Trade Tuesday or something. But we said we'd do a few this Friday. So we'll do a few this Friday. So send them to us one way or another. Bonus if you use the Spot Track trade machine. I'll tell you right now, if it's an illegal trade and it's from a broken trade machine, we're not going to talk it. Unless it's to completely shame you and make you feel bad for not using the Spot Track trade machine. Then maybe we'll talk about it.
Shame Friday. There we go. All right, everybody.
Ring the bell. Game of Thrones.
Join us tomorrow. We'll be live. We'll let everybody know ahead of time when it's when we will go live, but usually it'll be kind of like midday. We'll go live and we'll get that going. So be on the lookout for that. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.